Right, a very warm welcome back. We're in Sandton today, and this is the venue for the latest in the series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC. And today sponsored by Transnet, and we're talking energy. And just before the break, we heard Minister of Energy, Joemat-Pettersson, share her thoughts with us about the way forward. She says she doesn't have all the answers, but on a steep learning curve. But this is something that we all have to do together, especially when it comes to energy efficiency, keeping the lights on, and perhaps we can talk about some of those issues, what we can do together, but also get a broader picture of what this energy plan, energy mix is all about. And we look forward to receiving your tweets as well. Hashtag TNA BizBrief at SABC, at Morning Live SABC. And sometimes I do know that you use at Pirandora and at Leanne Manus, but at Morning Live SABC is where we'd like you to send your tweets to. We have an audience here, a full house of people in various parts of the industry and the sector that'll be sharing their thoughts and their questions with Minister as well. But let's say a very warm welcome once again. Minister, thank you for joining us, and welcome to the program. And congratulations on your new job. I'm not sure which is bigger, agriculture or energy, but energy is a huge one, isn't it? It affects everybody.
Thank you. It's almost as if you have to get used to a new name. When people speak of the Minister of Agriculture, I still look. And when they speak to the Minister of Energy, I still try to see where the minister is. So I still have to get used to this new title.
Right, next to you, and we say a very warm welcome to Acting DG, Mr. Tseliso Maqubela. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, you've been with the department for some time, so you know where all the bodies are buried. I mean, you know how the department is working. So, let's start with you, Minister. State of the Nation address, the President said radical transformation is required in the energy sector. Why is that?
Our country has had a very slow economic growth, and we have set ourselves certain economic targets, which unfortunately we haven't been able to meet. We sat down and really interrogated why we were not meeting these growth targets. And being part of a collective means that you take collective responsibility, you do not point fingers, and you do not blame those who came before you and those who will be there after you. So in this period of the President's term of office and the government of the day, we have decided that in order to fast-track economic development, we have to intervene decisively in the energy sector. We have listened to business and the private sector. Most of the concerns which were raised, we asked the experts what their concerns were. And most of the concerns that they raised centered around energy. We have delayed certain processes. We know why those processes were delayed, and it's unfortunate. We cannot cry over spilt milk, but for us to have a solid economic footing in the continent, in Africa, and do as well as we intend to do in the economy, we have to have a solid foundation in energy. All mining, any other sector depends on us. So the responsibility is enormous, and we take that responsibility with humility and knowing full well that we cannot do it alone. We need all partners to assist.
All right. DG, decisive steps need to be taken. You've been there all along. What have been some of the challenges that you've faced and that you think you can overcome now in this period that's coming through? Paint some big, broad pictures for us so that we can get an understanding of the lay of the land and what lies ahead.
No, thank you very much, Peter. First, let me say that when some of us joined the energy sector some 20 years ago, life was very simple. You had an ESCOM, and mainly driven by coal, and there was nuclear. Basically, that's how life was. And then, of course, on the liquid fuel side, you had a Sasol, you had the other oil majors and so on. Now, since then, there's been movement in terms of the energy sector. It's a dynamic sector. We've had to contend with the issues around the climate change. And therefore, that meant that the energy sector has got to respond because it is a big contributor to climate change. So there's been an introduction of new energy sources. And I can say that in this regard, 5 years ago, we were given a task as the energy department by the president to roll out an energy mix which has got a renewable energy bias. And I think that the results speak for themselves. We've been able to do that. I think we talk nowadays of 3,900 megawatts of renewable energy IPPs that has been procured, and some of it, of course, is already contributing to the grid. So I think there have been those changes. However, we're not done yet because the landscape, again, is changing. Across our borders, you have lots of gas, for example, in Mozambique. And I think as we develop our plans, the global landscape for energy is changing. You have the gas across the borders. You have potential offshore South Africa for oil and gas. And therefore, as you develop an energy plan, you've got to take into account all of those. And then on top of that, as Deputy President and the President said last week, the shale gas as the game changer. So it's a dynamic sector. As you develop a plan, something else crops up. Technology is going to also change the way that the energy sector develops as well.
All right, Minister, you've quite rightly said collective responsibility. People at home are going to say, look, all of these plans and these ideas are great. Why should we trust that you're going to be able to get the job done this time?
I think we do understand that there's a sense of urgency and that we're working against the clock. We do understand that people have become impatient, and when we do have service delivery strikes, they're basically around water, energy, and housing. So if the common complaint and the common denominator is energy, and one of the ingredients is energy, then we have no opportunity for failure. The margin for failure is extremely small. When you have that kind of responsibility, you do realize that there's no discussion. There's no time left for discussion. We have to address decision-making urgently. There are certainly quick wins and low-hanging fruit. One of the quick wins would be our agreement on the Grand Inga. An agreement has been signed. Within the next month, we'll take the agreement through Cabinet and ratify the treaty through Parliament. Those are quick wins. They are low-hanging fruits. The second is an acknowledgement that our capacity is not up to scratch. So if you have the capacity around you, you do not need to reinvent the wheel. The very same people who make suggestions are also able to assist you with the solutions and to implement the solutions. Our country is way beyond discussions and meetings. After 20 years, there is an imperative to implement. The experts are there. We have them in our country. We do not need to import them. And this time around, we have to get all our experts on board. Our further quick win would be to legislate the targets which have been outstanding for a very long time. There are certain targets around biofuels, around other energy mixes, which are there, but which just need to be finalized. So whatever needs to be finalized within the next 3 months, or what you popular call the first 100 days, whatever has to be done speedily. We'll ruffle a few feathers as usual. I'm not afraid of being unpopular or controversial, but someone has to get the job done.
All right. DG, we're talking about the sense of urgency and this movement of time, and I'm just wondering, will we get there in time? Because I think almost we've been quite lucky, actually, that the economy has been sluggish, that we went into a global recession at some point, because had we have been moving at full speed, the lights would have gone out ages before. Are we going to get there in time? Because it is now urgent.
Well, Peter, I think getting there, we have to. We have to. And the minister this morning called upon all of us to basically make sure that we make our own contribution. The question that perhaps, if I had the opportunity, I would be asking the audience, as well as the viewers at home, how many of us, for example, know our electricity bills? You know, do we know how much we consume? Because it's only then, when you know how much energy you consume, that you are going to be sensitive and you are going to be able to make, a plan, draw up a plan to save that energy. I know for a fact how much I consume. And in my household, for example, the cooking is with gas. And that is something that I would like to encourage people to explore. We've all grown up knowing that you have to cook with electricity. It's inefficient. Using liquefied petroleum gas that we have, or natural gas where it's reticulated, is the way to go. So in terms of getting there, I have no doubt that we will get there. As Minister has indicated, some unpopular decisions have got to be made. I think the Energy Department, in some respects, has got to be allowed to make those decisions. The issue of vested interests, because sometimes we're not able to move with the speed that is required because of, influences of vested interests. And I think we need to, as a country, realize that unless these decisions are made timelessly, we are going to have a challenge going forward.
All right, so the gloves are off, and we'll talk about some of those unpopular decisions and also timelines, I guess. There's other areas of this energy mix. Nuclear is a big, big story, and we want to get to chat about that as well. And some people are looking at the R1 trillion that's up for grabs, and we'll find out more about that after this break, and we'll also get questions from the floor and from you at home as well. So stay with us. We're talking energy this morning.